Hi everyone, welcome to the NIHR Insight Engagement Programme for the West Midlands. The webinar today is presented by the University Hospitals of North Midlands NHS Trust, Midlands Partnership, NHS Foundation Trust and Birmingham Health Partners. The webinar today is called Researcher versus Research Practitioner, and the aims are to understand clinical, academic and research career pathways and opportunities to engage in research from students to registered health professionals. So I'll now hand over to our presenters and they will introduce themselves. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Alison Cook. I'm the Associate Chief Nurse for Research and Education at University Hospitals North Midlands, which is the primary site is the Royal Stoke University Hospital, and we also have County Hospital in Stafford. Nick?
Hi everyone, my name's Nick Anderson. So I'm Lead Clinical Academic Nurse and Clinical Director in Research and Innovation at University Hospitals Birmingham, and I also have a concurrent role as a Research Fellow at the University of Birmingham, where my own research focuses on patient-reported outcomes. Nice to see everybody.
Hi everybody, my name is Matt Whitaker. I'm the practice educator over at Midlands Partnership Foundation Trust and also one of the engagement officers of the Central and North West Midlands Commercial Research Delivery Centre as well. So wonderful to have you all with us.
Okay, Alicia, can you move to the first slide? So as Alicia introduced, today's presentation is on research NMAPs and NMAP researchers. And that acronym seems to get longer and longer, but what we're trying to do there is portray all non-medical professions. So that's the difference. So we hope by the end of the presentation you'll realise that there is a difference between research NMAPs and NMAP researchers, and we'll have made it clear what that difference is. The important thing is it's two different research pathways that you can get involved in. So always good to know. Next slide, please. So our agenda today is going to cover an introduction that links you to all the national strategies and papers. And I think some of these slides might be able to be circulated, Alicia, if people wish. So you'd have the links to those reports. We're going to talk about the importance of research career pathways. Nick is going to cover research NMAPs. I'll cover NMAP researchers, and then Matt will finish off with where to go for help and support and also facilitate any questions. Next slide, please. So just by way of introduction, there's never actually been a better time to step into research, because it's definitely a priority. It's on the agenda of all of the professional leads. So we had the very first research strategy recently came from the Chief Nursing Office to kick us off in 2021. It was closely followed by the Chief AHP Office research strategy and then the Chief Midwifery Office research strategy. But more recently, we've all heard about the 10-year health plan, but actually there's a whole chapter in the Fit for the Future 10-year health plan on research. The government definitely want us to be a workforce that's got brilliant health research and great access for our staff and patients, but also world leading in terms of what research we offer. We all know in the research world that if you work in a research active organisation, your patients have better outcomes. So it's really important. But I think the 10-year health plan, most people are talking about the 3 shifts rather than the part in there that's on specifically about research. I think that gets lost, and I don't think that's really talked about as much. But there is a key message in there that they really want underrepresented professions to become our research leaders and to get involved in research, get research active. So that is our nurses, midwives, our AHPs, our pharmacy staff and our healthcare scientists. recently, again, the Office for, I have to think about this one, the Office for Strategic Coordination of Health Research report, which is a department within the Council of Deans for Health, they've actually said that they want an increase in clinical academics in the next 5 years, so that they sort of came on top of all the previous reports, again enhancing the importance of research. So it's a great time to be thinking about stepping into research. So I'm glad that you're all here because you are definitely at the right time in your career to engage with this. Next slide, please. So very quickly, just a key message, and it's the message that this is sort of my mantra, and it's my team's mantra. You are research active. If you just think about your clinical practice as students or qualified staff, every day that you work with patients, why are you doing it that way? Is there a better way? And what does the evidence say? And if you always carry those 3 messages with you every shift, then you are going to be considering evidence-based practice. You are going to be considering what is the best way of doing things for your patients. And that's all we can ask, really. Not everybody wants to be a professor of research. Not everybody wants to be a lead researcher and actually conduct their own research study. And not everybody wants to go into the R&I department and deliver research either. Lots of people want to stay clinical. But if you're asking yourself these 3 questions every shift, you are contributing to the research agenda. Next slide, please. So research, as I said, is on the national radar, and the government are really sort of pushing this. One of the other things in that chapter in the 10-year health plan was this faster delivery of research, so 150-day setup, which is quite an achievement in a lot of trusts. A lot of trusts haven't been able to achieve that and are really working hard to try and get close to that and actually fulfil that goal. And then the other thing in the 10-year health plan I've already mentioned was that increasing research capacity and capability for all of our underrepresented professions in research, so we get more NMAP-led research. I mean, often research has been thought to be the remit of our medical colleagues, so of doctors and consultants, but actually, depending on what type of research it is, that's actually what determines who is the best place to lead research. And often, if it's a patient-centred focus, then our non-medical colleagues are actually best placed to be the leads of that research. So that it's the right thing to do, to say, is to be increasing that capacity and capability in those professions. And as I said, the Oscar report, they actually in detail said that they want to increase the number of clinical academics by 50% over the next 5 years. What they didn't say is how many we've got now, and I think that's an unknown number. So to know what 50% actually equates to is quite difficult to actually determine. But the ambition is there, and that's the important thing. So next slide, please. I'm going to hand over to Nick.
I want to spend the next few minutes really shining a light on research careers for nurses, midwives, AHPs and other health and care professionals, particularly what research NMAP careers look like. And I'm going to use the term research delivery and clinical research nurses for those types of roles and about how you can get involved. Next slide, please, Alicia. So this is really my journey. So I'm starting with my own path, and I've come from a background as a clinical research nurse delivering other people's research, but ultimately becoming a nurse researcher in my own right. And this slide amuses me actually, because it looks like that was a short and a straight path, but those of you looking at this can see that it's actually 1/4 of a century it has taken for my literally a life lived in research. And I've spent many years, as I say, undertaking and delivering other people's research before really using that curiosity, I think, that Alison was talking about, and wanting to explore actually research questions of my own. So after undertaking a master's in healthcare law and ethics, I actually had the opportunity a few years later to undertake what I would call an informal internship. So I got local charity funding from our QE Kidney Patients Association, because I was working within renal research delivery at the time, and they supported me buying out my time for 2 days a week to build up a competitive NIHR PhD, a doctoral application, to get some funding. So I completed my doctorate between 2019 and 2023, and interestingly, I'm sure you'll all be aware, we had quite a big event happened during that time, so it really hasn't been a straight and direct line, but I'm now able to work as a clinical academic, still working within my research delivery role, but also working as an academic at the university at the same time. Next slide please, Alicia. So working within research and innovation, how do research departments work? So they're often varying sizes. I come from a very, very large research and innovation department at UHB, but often they can be more varied than people expect. The funding comes through various different routes, through the NIHR and other sources, such as charities and grants from other sources. And we work within the HRA and the MHRA regulation. Most importantly, we really do now involve patients as our partners, not just in developing research, but all the way through that research pipeline to how we disseminate and how we actually achieve the impact of our research projects. And at UHB, where I work, we run both commercial studies, so they're funded by private sector organisations such as pharmaceutical companies, and academic studies. And I can genuinely say that we cover research across all different specialities, all the way from paediatrics to oncology to critical care. There's just some examples here. And we've also got generic teams, such as our core team at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital and at Birmingham Heartlands Hospital. And then we have a dedicated clinical research facility, which is a facility that is purely for delivering research activity. But ultimately, as Alison was saying, it all comes back to two things: research activity driving better patient outcomes for our populations. Next slide, please, Alicia. So I wanted to start by busting a few myths, because there are lots of myths around what clinical research nursing and research delivery nursing is all about. And I've been accused of going into a role that is just a nurse with a clipboard, or does it mean you're just going to be sitting behind a desk doing paperwork, and is it a step away from real clinical care? And I really want to take the next few minutes to challenge those assumptions and describe to you what the job actually really involves. Next slide, please, Alicia. So moving past those myths, I want to talk about what the job is really like day to day. As a clinical research nurse, it isn't a data entry role bolted onto real nursing. It is clinical nursing. We're just delivering it against a strict research protocol. On any given day, you might be screening patients against detailed eligibility criteria to see if it's appropriate for them to take part in your study. You'll be taking informed consent, which means having genuinely difficult conversations with people who might be frightened, unwell, or facing even a terminal diagnosis. You'll be administering investigational drugs or devices under tightly controlled dosing and timing windows. And I've had the opportunity to administer drugs that are literally first in man. You'll be carrying out clinical observations, bloods, ECGs and other procedures, all to a protocol mandated schedule that doesn't bend for staffing pressures. So you've got to be really on the ball. And then your documentation has to be a standard that will withstand regulatory audit. So every entry has to be defensible. Every deviation from that protocol has to be reported. You're also managing lots of different relationships. You'll be working with your participants participants over months or years of follow-up. You work within multidisciplinary teams with sponsors and monitors, and often with worried families. And there's a constant tension that we're trying to balance between the rigour of the research against the reality of the individual that's sitting in front of you. I can genuinely say it's emotionally demanding, clinically skilled work that involves excellent organisation and communication. So this isn't just an admin role, and that's the reality that I want to leave you with. And I'm really passionate about the role of the clinical research nurse and research delivery staff, which includes clinical research practitioners as well. Next slide, please, Alicia. So sorry, this is quite a busy slide, but I'm happy to share it afterwards. But it really maps out how the different parts of the research career actually connect with each other, because it's rarely just one lane. So on the left is the clinical academic pathway, which Alison's going to talk about a bit more in a moment. And that combines clinical practice with academic research. People are often working towards or have acquired a PhD, and they're building an independent research portfolio. They're running a research team, securing grants and taking on mentoring, supervision of students, publishing and teaching. But on the right is the bit that I'm really focusing on today, which is about research delivery and research delivery leadership. And that again splits into two different strands. One is study leadership, which covers that delivery of the research following a protocol, where you have a recruitment strategy to recruit patients, you're maintaining data quality, reporting safety issues, and hitting all your study milestones to make sure that you recruit to time and target. And then we've got team leadership and management. So that's where you're managing research delivery staff, which is a multidisciplinary team. You're looking at performance of that team and of the studies. You're running budgets. You're adhering to those trial regulations, and you're maintaining an excellent team culture. And in the middle is where those two worlds really meet, where those two worlds meet. And that's where we hope to get operational excellence. So here you're leading delivery teams, solving problems in real time, deploying resources, delivering successful trials, etc., so that we've got maximum research impact. And the point here that I'm really trying to land is that you don't have to choose a single track early and stay in it forever. I started in research delivery leadership and then have flipped into a clinical academic pathway. And I would say that my clinical academic pathway also includes research delivery leadership. So these circles all intersect, from leadership to clinical practice into academia and back again. And I really do feel passionately that the strongest research departments are where all these roles are talking together. Next slide, please, Alicia. So at the beginning of this session, Alison already talked about some of the strategies that are really backing up what we're saying about the importance of research within the National Health Service. And I just want to refer back to the Chief Nursing Officer for England's strategic plan for research, because I come from a nursing background, although Alison did highlight that there are similar strategies set out for other health and care professions. And the central ambition here is really to empower nurses to lead, participate and deliver research. And it matters because of those things that Alison has already mentioned about research active organisations have better patient outcomes and better staff retention. But Alison also alluded to there's a real gap to close. And we, as she said, the data's not clear, but there was some evidence in 2017 that clinical academics represented 4.6% of NHS medical consultants, but we compare that with less than 0.1% of nursing, midwifery and AHP professions. And that's despite nurses being significantly the largest clinical workforce in the NHS. And that's precisely why these strategies are so important, to close that gap for nurses, midwives, etc. So the strategy referred to here is delivered in 3 phases: to discover, build and sustain. And there's real money behind it now, both from the NIHR and NHS England, who are putting lots of money in to boost research careers for health and care professionals. And this is alongside an implementation plan, which includes things like the research toolkit for matrons and healthcare leaders so they can understand research better, to be able to support and empower their staff for knowledge mobilisation. There are other tools such as the self-assessment of organisational readiness for research tool, the SORT tool, so that organisations know what they need to do to sustain a really excellent and active research culture. And then things like the multi-professional practice-based research capabilities framework. And I also want to highlight leadership programs such as the Senior Research Leaders program that both myself and Alison have taken part in, but there are similar SRL programs for AHPs to sit alongside that for nurses and midwives, and there's a soon to open Senior Research Leader program for pharmacists. So the message that I think Alison has been making, and I'm trying to reinforce, is that this isn't a niche interest anymore. It's a funded national priority, and there's never been a better moment to get involved. But I know I'm preaching to the converted on this call. Next slide, please. So if you're a student or newly qualified, alongside the Insight programme itself, there are some real entry points to get involved in research. Ask your placements if they're research active and get involved. Look into elective placements. Here at UHB, we do elective placements on our clinical research facility, for example. You might want to do insight visits or work shadowing schemes. You can explore opportunities offered by the Florence Nightingale Foundation, leadership programmes such as the Mary Seacole programme, and then look on the NIHR website for links to NIHR Learn, where you can undertake good clinical practice training. And I've already talked about some of the other additional frameworks. It's also really important to connect with other like-minded people, and there are research nurse networks such as the International Association of Clinical Research Nurses, and I had the opportunity to present at one of their annual conferences several years ago, so got the opportunity to go out to Bethesda in the United States, where I actually was allowed a tour of their NIH, National Institutes for Health research facility, which is a 600-bedded research hospital, which was a real eye-opener, I have to tell you. So get along to conferences, and there are similar networks out there such as CAPER for allied health professionals. Next slide, please, Alicia. So this is my last slide. I've been wearing several different hats. As I say, I've got a University of Birmingham hat, a University Hospitals Birmingham hat, but I also want to declare an interest in Birmingham Health Partners. This is an NHS University Alliance in the region made up of 9 different organisations that are highlighted on this slide.
I think Nick's frozen on mine. I don't know if it's the same for everyone else.
Yes, she's frozen.
Shall we move on? And I can bring Nick in to just talk about that slide at some point. Is that all right? Okay, so I don't know whether she can hear us, but I just thought that was an amazing and enthusiastic discovery session on clinical research, research delivery careers. I too started off in research delivery, but my spotlight here today is on research leadership and actually leading research projects, leading your own research. So next slide, please. So I also have a roadmap, which is a little bit busy, and again doesn't show you the ups and downs of a research pathway. I actually came into the NHS quite late, so I failed my A-levels, and had to go and get a job. My dad said, you know, get a job in banking, there's always a job in finance. So off I went to work in insurance. And it was only after I'd actually had my children that I realised that I wanted to be a midwife, because I really felt the care that I'd had from my second midwife was something I wanted to give back to other women, because it had been so amazing. So that was 1995, and I managed to get, I knew I wanted some more children. So I waited to finish my family, and then I managed to get a place at University of Manchester as a student midwife. And it was funny because I was one of two in my cohort that actually enjoyed the research modules. Normally, our students sit there and think, why are you teaching us this? We don't need that. We need to have all the clinical skills. And that was the same back in 2003 when I was at university. But I actually enjoyed them. And funnily enough, the research question, which started my whole research career, cropped up in my first community placement as a student, when I actually went out with my mentor, as they were called then, rather than practice supervisors. And the mum was really quite dismayed about the fact that her baby was really dry and the skin was flaking off. And it was a bit of a trend, actually, because all babies are dry. But asked the midwife, what do they use for the dry skin? And the midwife sat there and said, oh, just put a bit of olive oil on that. Anything that you've got in the cupboard, it's natural, so it's safe. And the skin will be moisturised and it won't be dry anymore. But I'd already had 4 kids, and I went away and I thought, hang on a minute, I would never have rubbed my children with cooking oil that I'd used to cook vegetables and stuff. I mean, it doesn't even smell nice, and you lose that lovely baby smell. It really bothered me. And every midwife I went out with was telling them the same thing, and it was so strong that they were writing it in the notes as well. Olive oil recommended for baby dry skin, and everybody would repeat that mantra, and it just really bothered me. So hold that thought. It was back in my head as a student. I went on, I became a qualified midwife, had my own caseload, just repeated the same mantra, because you do what you were told. So my mentors told me that's what you did. So I went out and did that as a qualified midwife as well. I was writing in the notes, olive oil recommended for dry skin. Didn't really question it at that point. But after about 3 years, I thought, I need a new challenge. I am that type of person. My mum and dad used to say, I was always asking questions as a child, never stopped asking why. And that's probably a research trait. But I had managed to get a part-time position as a research midwife when that challenge cropped up for me 3 years after qualifying. And so I worked clinically half the week and clinically and as a research midwife the rest of the week. Funnily enough, I was appointed as a research midwife, but the professor of midwifery actually said to me, I've got this piece of research I need doing, and would you like to take it on? Here's the question. It needs an evidence review, and then you need to design the research, go through ethics, conduct the research, and we need to publish it at the end, and you can do it in this fixed term period rather than recruit to my existing trials. So I was a bit spoilt, really, because although I'd been helping out with recruitment to other people's research, which is what Nick was describing in terms of that delivery role, this was actually what would normally be a research leadership role, but being done as a research midwife. And I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved the fact that I could do the evidence review, got a paper published. So I saw my name in print the very first time. And I was able to go through the ethics process, get ethics approval, and actually talk to women about their experiences of having babies later in life, or not being able to have babies later in life, and felt like I was making a difference and able to publish that work at the end. So at the end, nearly at the end, the NIHR released their very first offer of pre-doctoral awards. They were called I've forgotten what they're called now, but they were a studentship for a master's in research then. They weren't called the pre-doctoral award, but that is basically what they became. And I got a place on that. I managed to do my master's in clinical research in a year. And I was able to have this research as my project for that. And then at the end of it, the professor of midwifery said to me, okay, well, you need to go for the doctorate next. Have you got a question that's ever bothered you? And I thought, wow, well, I have actually. The professor of midwifery had done some trials in baby wash and wipes, but I had a very similar interest because it was all about infant skincare. So I said I had this question on using oils for dry skin in babies. She said, right, that's definitely a good question. There was no evidence in that area in the population that we needed, although there was a bit in mice and adults. And so that was my PhD, and I've never looked back. So I got my PhD in 2015 and then got some grants, was invited to take part in skincare consultancy panels, and it's just gone on until I got a lecturer post in university, because at the time when I did my PhD, there wasn't really anything clinical academic to go for. You had to write your own job description if you wanted a clinical academic role at that time, and it was unlikely that they would allow you to have your own written job description if it didn't fit with their needs as well. So I actually ended up coming out of the NHS and going into the university. But then this post came up in 2021, which was back in the NHS and was actually all about supporting others to embark on a research career pathway. So my role now is to allow others to know about the opportunities that are available out there to be able to go on a pathway like this. And it's an amazing role, and I get a great deal of satisfaction out of seeing others achieve and being able to make such a difference to patients. So on that note, having told you my whole life story, I'll move on to the next slide and give you a bit of the content underpinning that then. So just to recap on what Nick very enthusiastically and brilliantly told us about, even though she's jet lagged, it is amazing the way that you portrayed that, about the difference in the roles. So as a research nurse, I'm just saying nurse, but I mean every non-medical profession there, you are actually delivering research, it normally led by somebody else. You're involved in recruitment, in taking consent, assisting with data collection, planning the follow-up and being part of the support team. It's a great role because you get a real continuity with these participants in research, and that is a great element of satisfaction in that role. As a nurse researcher, you might be identifying gaps in the evidence and designing research that can fill that gap. You might be commissioned to do certain research, but you are generally the chief investigator and you're responsible for the research. You lead the research and you lead the research team. So often you are working with the research delivery team to enable your research to come to fruition. Next slide, please. So the great thing about wanting to embark on that type of career, and there's no reason why even as a clinical research nurse or a research delivery practitioner, you can step in and out of this pathway as well. But basically, we are so lucky that we have the NIHR, so National Institute for Health and Care Research, have a pathway that you can follow that enable you to get all of the skills that you require to grow in research and to actually become a research leader. What the NIHR wants is research leaders. They want the future generation of research leaders. They want to support anybody with a passion in research to go forward. And I did say to you at the very beginning, I failed my A-levels. I had to go and do a diploma in French to have the required education to be able to apply for a midwifery degree. But not all people who go on this route and do doctorates and stuff are really academic or really intelligent. I think that's a little bit of a myth that needs busting as well. I was absolutely passionate about the subject and about improving care for women and babies, and that drove me through my doctorate. And doctorates come out at the end in a range of classifications, and mine came through with no corrections. And that was a real key thing for me, that actually I'd failed my A-levels, but I managed to do a thesis that didn't require any corrections. But that was totally underpinned by passion for my subject. And that's what it was. It was the passion that drove me through. And it was amazing to be able to do that. And I was supported by this pathway on 2 stages of the pathway. So the pre-doctoral award and the doctoral award. And I've always felt through getting those awards that I wanted to give back, because everybody needs to know about these awards. So even though you're very early on in your career pathway, just tuck this bit of information into the back of your mind and draw on it if you decide that you might like to engage with this, because these opportunities through the NIHR, they pay your salary. They pay you to be a student. They buy you protected time to be able to step out of clinical practice and do this research. And then they keep your place at your substantive post so that you can step back into the NHS, often with a promotion attached to it. When you look for those posts, you're more highly skilled, you're more highly developed in lots of areas, and can step into corresponding posts because of that skill set, not necessarily needing to be a research leader. As Nick said, she has a variety of hats, and they span so many different research pathways, and you are able to, with this skill set, you are able to be very transferable across all those different career pathways. So next slide, please. So not only does the NIHR offer these programs where you can get funding to protect your time, there are other places. I just think the NIHR is the sort of the flagship program that covers so many things, and enables you to have a really good development plan, enable you to go on really good training, and also pays all your research costs, pays your salary, gives you that protection and that feeling of security as you work through, and just gives you that time out to think and do the best about your research project. But the MRC, the Medical Research Council, offers similar fellowships, as do the ESRC. Often charities will offer different pots of money to be able to conduct research, and there are various awards through our professional bodies as well. But you just have to keep an eye out for opportunities. We communicate our opportunities through our comms to make sure that everybody is aware of them. But it's just worthwhile you checking those types of things out and making a bookmark on some of these sites, particularly the NIHR. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a whiz through, as Nick did for Birmingham Health Partners. I'm just going to tell you what we have in the North Midlands. So we have CENRI, which is a Centre for Research and Education Excellence for underrepresented professions. Next slide, please. What we hope to do is to provide a supportive environment where we can enable our underrepresented professions to engage with research, and that can be from journal clubs right up to becoming a clinical academic. We just want to support them to make a realisation that actually research is everybody's business, and it's just about being curious and thinking about improving patient outcomes. But we can support staff on that route. Next slide, please. So we offer various opportunities to our staff, and these opportunities can be set up and are replicated in many other trusts across the West Midlands. So not only can you get involved in journal clubs, you might be able to be part of a rapid review team. That means that you can work through an evidence review with experienced researchers and publish at the end and become an author on a paper. You can help to support policy development within your teams. You could support a research placement student, you could work with the R&I delivery team, you could actually join up to the associate PI scheme that the NIHR offer, or you could lead your own research project, and what we offer as a team is support in any of those aspects. Next slide, please. There's also a research ambassador scheme where you can be a signposting member of staff for your area. There's lots of things like research themed support groups, symposiums. We offer support particularly for our consultant and advanced level practitioners so that they can evidence that research pillar of practice, which is often the most difficult for that population to evidence. So we help them, and we have a mission to arrange protected time for all of those practitioners so that they can evidence that pillar. And above all, we have a research question suggestion box. So when I said to you, I guess I got that question as a student midwife, I would have loved the opportunity, or maybe I wouldn't, because then somebody else would have picked it up and I wouldn't have had my career. But you could post that question in when you don't feel confident enough to look at it yourself, and get people around you to help with it. Next slide, please. So the final thing I think I've got to say to you is about the fact that we offer a hub and spoke model. And the idea is that we know that not every trust has somebody in a position like mine or a team like mine that can offer this support. With trusts like Nicola's trust, where Nicola is, and Nicola being that passionate and being able to speak to people about these types of careers. And I'm the same. I really love to offer to make sure people know about the opportunities available to them. But not every trust has them. I think only about 15 to 20% of trusts in England have this type of resource. So we offer this resource free to anybody. Anybody can contact our team. We don't turn anybody away. We will always help them. So just be aware of that. Anybody can contact us. Next slide, please. I'm just summing up that anybody can engage with research at any level. Research is everyone's business. Always ask questions. Why are we doing it this way? Is there a better way? What does the evidence say? Research can be a career pathway, like Nick and I have sort of demonstrated, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to step onto those specific research pathways. Research is always part of your practice, whatever your role. There's different pathways. You can step in and out of them, and your R&D departments, or they might be RD&I, or they might be R&I, but every trust has that department, can be the first place that you go to asking for support. But you might have a specific team like the Senry team at UH&M. Again, just seek those out and make contact with them so that you know where to go to engage with research. I think I'm going to hand over to Matt to be able to tell you different routes to finding help. Thank you.
That's marvellous. Thank you, Alison. And I don't have a roadmap to show you folks, but I will just give you another example, because I know on this slide here we said about sort of the different research careers pathways. I'm from the AHP circles before, so I'm a physio by background. So I was about sort of 8 years working as a physiotherapist in a variety of different settings, more recently in the children's sector for the 5 years I was in before this role. And then I jumped into the practice educator role, the first research opportunity I'd really had to get involved in. And this was a role that was actually developed due to the need in research departments. So again, researchers that ever evolve and making those opportunities available to us as well. But yeah, I will just tell you about a few different options that you can get involved in right now, folks, for a bit of support. So can I have the next slide, please, Alicia? There we go. So I know Alison's already just touched on it a little bit there. One of the best ports of call you can go to is get in touch with your local R&D departments. These departments are a wealth of information for you for whichever avenue of research you're looking at. If I think about our own research and innovation department here, we've got our governance teams who are looking into kind of the approval process of the funding sides, the grants applications parts of research as well. We've got our partnerships working, where we're looking at how we can work with surrounding organisations and surrounding trusts to build research moving forward. We have the delivery team, which is where myself is based, where we're obviously working on those projects, developing potential opportunities for our participants to get involved, building a network of principal investigators to lead those studies as well, and some of our business and communication teams linking out to sponsors and wider from there as well. So we have this resource that is a wide variety of professionals, a wide variety of knowledge that you can tap into to already think about, well, how can I be bringing research into my current role? Maybe there will be in the future the opportunity for you to think about moving into a research department or having research as part of your role in everyday practice as well. But the best advice I can give is reach out to those departments, because they will help you with that networking and navigating to get you started there. Also, we have things like the existing PIs. So obviously there's multiple studies done. Our existing PIs have that wealth of information about what the role actually entails, how you actually handle a study, what it involves in terms of the conduct of it, the reporting of safety things and keeping people protected on our studies, what it's like having that communication with the sponsors, and actually even potentially, if you take on things like a CI role in the future, actually being involved in that creation of it and input into studies that are coming out in the future. I think Alison did touch on it already as well, but we also have things like the Associate PI scheme that the NIHR run as well. If you've not come across this before, this is basically a 6-month shadowing opportunity where certain studies that are on the portfolio are signed up to this scheme, and you can spend 6 months shadowing an experienced PI, working alongside them to carry out all the activities that a PI might have to do on a study. So then in the future, when you're looking to perhaps take on a PI role yourself, you've already already got some basis of what it might involve from there as well. We have our research and academic development teams as well, and there's lots of links with that where roles are coming out where you can work between departments as well. So again, I know we've got a role here where we've got someone who works part-time in the delivery team and part-time for the Kiel academic teams as well. So you're getting that link between the whole research journey about that start to finish kind of idea. And then we've got our higher education industries as well. So linking into those universities that are surrounding you. If you have a question already, as Alison's already talked about, we now have the suggestion boxes, but you can also take those directly to the universities and think about how you actually get that off the ground, what you need to be doing next. There are several groups and projects you can get involved in as well, folks. So these are available across the West Midlands and sort of locally as well. So many of you might have been on sessions of our STARS programme. So this is supporting the advancement of research skills. So if you're right at the beginning of your research journey, or even if you've done a few projects and are looking about how you can perhaps do things differently, or thinking about leading the next project that's going to come through, the STARS session has a wide variety of different sessions you can get involved in, from research and practice to find evidence in the first place, see what's out there and understand it, to then the delivery side where you're learning those skills to actually deliver a research project, and then the research leaders pathway where you're then thinking, what do I need to do to move this project forward? What methodologies are going to work here? What data analysis techniques do I need to employ in these? So the STARS is available across the West Midlands for everyone to get involved in. If you're thinking more specifically in particular specialties as well, there's a variety of groups available as well. So we have things like the Kiel Haywood Rheumatology Academic Group, better known as the CAR Group, where they're looking into causes and optimizing management for rheumatology and MSK type conditions. We have the Mental Health Research Group, which they're looking into the mental health condition side of things and linking into the mental health mission resources that are available as well. We have the Screen resources, which is then looking into social care research engagement networks to build the portfolio there. And we have the Lens resources, which is then thinking about those working in criminal justice settings as well, because we know there's a wealth of information from those professionals and participants to take part in studies. So there's lots of different avenues to explore, folks. I know in terms of the STARS stuff, there is a STARS Plus program now as well, which is thinking more along the mentoring and network side of things. Clinical academic academies that are involved in that as well. So we can absolutely share links out about how to get involved in these groups further, but it is a really exciting time in research because there's so many more of these avenues being promoted and being made more available now. We've seen obviously the 10-year plan coming out, and research is a big part about that and about moving forward. So for you, wherever you are in your research careers at the moment, there is so many avenues for you to now get involved in, regardless of where you are in your training, to actually think about bringing research in. So can we have the next slide, please, Alicia? So that brings us to our question and answers now. So we will open it up to the floor. I managed to mute myself. Don't know why I'm muting myself. So if we can take the slides down, Alicia, and then we can have everybody up on the screen. And then if anyone wants to be brave and turn on their cameras and microphones and have a question at all, we will welcome it. Same in the chat. If you haven't got access or anything, please feel free to post anything in there.
I know sorry, Alicia, I was just going to say, while people are thinking of questions, I just wanted to apologise. There's obviously gremlins in the system. It just, all of a sudden, my Wi-Fi just decided it was going to stop working at the university. So it just took me off. So I don't know how much you heard about Birmingham Health Partners, but I hope it was enough.
We got some of it, Nick. Did you want to sum up anything before we take the first question?
I think the only thing I would say is that there are opportunities that will from Birmingham Health Partners to fund people's time to allow them to pursue a research career. So I think go and explore the Birmingham Health Partners website would be my advice.
Yeah, I can second that. I've seen those opportunities come out and they're really good. So really worth a look.
Brilliant. Well, I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, I have seen one in the chat. So we've had a question of what is the pathway for someone who isn't in an employed role but has research experience? I know from sort of the bits that I've been involved in before, there's certainly some avenues you can explore. You can do sort of volunteering and shadowing in departments to see how things are happening and actually think about how you want to link in with those departments and the networking opportunities that brings as well. Certainly, if you've got a question as well, that's a good chance to then link into, like we've already said, the higher education industries and your R&D departments to say, well, how would I get this off the ground? And there may be an opportunity to develop a role from there as part of the research. But Alison and Nick, have you got any suggestions?
Yeah, I'd say that we often have contributors who have experience, maybe a lived experience or something of value that we can add to our research team. We're always interested in, you don't have to be a member of staff to be involved in a research team. So absolutely contact us if you would like to get involved. I don't know whether that means not in an employed role. Does it mean that you're a student, or does it mean something else? Cumlish, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, firstly, I think what I was thinking of when I read that is, what's the pathway for someone who isn't in an employed role? I've got research experience where I've been involved in projects and things like that because of my lived experience, and I've got quite a lot of different roles in research in like steering groups and things like that. And I've got a couple of roles with NIHR as well. But what I'm looking for currently is, I've been trying to look into a way of trying to get funding to go on to a university degree, and I'm not sure where. I'm not really getting anywhere, if I'm being honest. I've been on the NIHR website, I've spoken to people in NIHR, their research support service. I've tried a few academics, but I just don't think there's, from what I can tell, there isn't anything available for somebody who's in my situation, or is there?
So what I would say is that's an individual situation, and I'd be delighted to try and help. If you were to email the team, so Alicia, there's a slide, isn't there, with your address on, we could put up at the end, and then Alicia can forward your information to me and perhaps to Nick as well. Just
Okay,
to try
really
and
helpful,
help you
thank
out with
you.
that, but we'll look at that on an individual basis if that's okay.
Yeah, I'd
I would
really
just say,
appreciate that, because I was looking into this, for a good few months, and I just don't seem to be getting anywhere. And I just feel a bit lost, and time's actually going, and we're in July now. So yeah, I'd
So
appreciate that then.
Nick and I both have university hats as well. I have a joint appointment. I don't know where, I think Nick's might be as well. So actually it would definitely be worth getting in touch with the two of us through the programme team. But thank you for your question.
Okay,
Yeah,
and you'll give out the email address after
Yes.
for you. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I was just going to say, I know as well, you touched on kind of the funding is available for kind of masters. I know we've had another question in the chat about the funding for masters. There was one very recent, I believe it's now closed, the bursary, but just to make you aware for another time, there is, I think it's 4 universities who host a research delivery leadership masters postgraduate course as well. And that does have a bursary that you can apply for as well. I think the bursary for this cohort, anyway, I think it closed just at the start of July, so I think it has just finished at the moment. But on a future occasion, there is a bursary available for that course as well. So I'm sure then when you chat with Alison and Nick, they can share some details on that as well. But yeah.
Yeah, as regards to the next question about is there current funding, then there is pre-doctoral awards, but there are also those types of awards advertised as early career awards. They might be under various specialties. So I know that Asthma and Lung UK offer an early career fellowship, but it is for pre-doctoral, so master's level. So yeah, there's lots of things like that. And if you can't find those just by general searching, again, I don't mind somebody contacting me for more support to find that funding.
Yeah, no, I'd echo that as well. I'm involved with the Association of Nephrology Nurses UK, and we're working with Kidney Research UK for masters opportunities for renal nurses. So there are loads. In some ways, one of the problems is that there are multiple opportunities. So knowing which is the right one for you can sometimes be quite complicated. So that's why roles like mine and Alison's as senior research leaders are quite quite useful, because they help people actually talk through what their career trajectory wants are, to try and get them to the right place and the right opportunity to maximise their potential.
Well, thank you. I just want to chat. I know we've got a couple of other questions in the chat, but Bazamatri, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Did you have a question? So I'm sure I saw a hand up, but has it already been answered? Think we must be okay then. So yeah, just coming back to a few other questions in here then. So are there any opportunities for internationals recently completed masters in the UK and looking for funded PhDs or research roles? I'll pass over to you two again if that's okay, because I'm all your side.
Yeah, again, there are those sorts of opportunities, particularly universities will offer those opportunities. And then with regards to other funding, it's just a case of checking the criteria and making sure that you fit the criteria. But there's all sorts of different scales of criteria for all the different funding streams, and some of them are very specifically looking at those underrepresented groups and backgrounds as well. So yeah, it's worth having a look. And again, if you need more support, we're quite happy for you to approach us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd highlight research delivery roles as well. So it can be a really good entry point into research to get to understand, particularly if you're internationally educated, it will help you to get to understand the research landscape within the United Kingdom. And so at UHB, we've got some absolutely amazing internationally educated research nurses who are undertaking masters, and fully expect them to go on and do PhDs. So definitely I'd say look at NHS jobs and explore research delivery roles as well.
The only other thing that we haven't really covered in this seminar is the fact that there is an internship program as well, where you can have a taste of research for up to 30 days. And that's actually run by Andrew Finney, who is through MPFT, where Matt is. But that's an excellent opportunity. And actually, the training programme for that, you can pick and choose your training from across the West Midlands. All of the people who are involved in that collaborative offer different types of training, like the STARS programme at MPFT. Senri, my team, offer different aspects of that programme as well. And you can actually just look at what's available and choose. But it's a great way of stepping into research and actually making those networks as well, to be able to find out where these other opportunities are. It's just worth a mention, because I realise none of us have mentioned the internship programme, so I hope you don't mind me just taking over there.
No, absolutely. It was on my list and I'd forgotten it. So no, thank you for covering it, Alison. And I think the last question we've got in the chat is from a therapy assistant practitioner in the community. You've got a master's degree in data analysis, and you have some experience in research, and you're wanting to get into a practitioner role or possible pathway. So again, things like the internship will be available, but in terms of getting into a research department, we have the clinical research practitioner roles. So I know certainly here we have we've broken that down to clinical research assistant, officers and practitioner roles. So there's sort of a progression route that you can get involved in through that way as well. And we've also had roles like data manager resources here as well. So some of the data analytics groups, the skills that you've got would really apply there. And we've had members of staff that then gone on from that into the clinical roles as well. So because they've got that foundation in how to manage the data of a study, then progressed into those roles as well. So there are a few different avenues available, but yeah, it'd be best to, as Nick has already touched on, getting yourself an NHS jobs and seeing what clinical research practitioner roles are available, and they'll have their essential and desirable criteria that you might be able to fit into there as well.
Yeah, I'd back that up, what Matt's saying. I'd also say that because you've got a background in data analytics, that healthcare data research is really coming to the fore now, and certainly at UHB we've got a very large healthcare data research team that includes all sorts of fantastic roles such as data wranglers, which I think sounds really exciting, data wrangling. So, you know, this is a fast moving area, so there are new roles emerging within the research space all the time. So it's just thinking about how you can get exposure to some of those experiences, and hopefully we've highlighted some of the opportunities that are available, and then perhaps looking at NHS jobs as well, staying in touch with your R&I departments, looking at their websites to see what roles are coming up, and just doing things like shadowing and asking for opportunities, because we're always looking for excited, passionate people who'll join our teams.
So I realise we're at 2 o'clock, aren't we, Lissy? I just want to say that actually that specific area is explicitly mentioned in the 10-year plan. It really is at the forefront of government strategy. So yeah, really great experience you've got there, and I'm sure you'd be able to step into some role. Alicia, I notice you've put your email in the chat. Is that the one that you'd like delegates to contact?
Yes, please do so. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so everybody, you've got a way of getting in touch with us.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and thank you again for presenting, Alison, Matthew and Nicola, and thank you everyone for attending. It was a brilliant webinar, so thank you very much. If there's no more questions, I'm happily closing the webinar now. So thank you everyone, and hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.